All right, welcome everyone. Today we are going to talk about building a virtual fortress around your most critical data. But here's the twist. We're going to ditch that old castle and moat thinking and start with a really powerful assumption that the bad guy is already inside. And that all starts by asking one single crucial question.
Right. So what if the attacker is already inside your network? Think about it. We spend so much time, so much money building these massive walls to defend the perimeter, right? But what happens when the threat isn't a battering ram at the gate, but a key that's already been stolen? This one question, it completely flips our entire security strategy on its head. We stop just defending the outside and start really controlling what happens on the inside.
You know, once an attacker gets a foothold, they don't just hang out and admire the scenery. Nope, they're aiming for maximum impact. We're talking about deploying nasty ransomware, unleashing self-propagating worms that spread like wildfire, or just moving silently through your network to steal all your data. This is exactly why a strong endpoint defense isn't just a good idea. It's absolutely essential.
Okay, so our fortress is going to be built in layers, and that first layer, we're calling it the network shield. It's all about creating this sort of micro perimeter, a little bubble, around every single machine on your network.
So the number one threat we're trying to block at this layer is something called lateral movement. And you know what? Attackers absolutely love using legitimate tools that are already built into your systems to do this. I'm talking about things like Windows Management Instrumentation, or WMI. It's a super powerful tool for administrators, but in the wrong hands, well, they use these trusted tools to silently hop from one computer to the next, spreading damage as they go. Our goal is to shut down those pathways, period.
So how do we actually build this shield? Well, it's a classic 1-2 punch. First up, a strong firewall policy. This acts as your gatekeeper, right? It's blocking all those unauthorized communication attempts between endpoints. Then, boom, the second part, a host intrusion prevention system, or HIPS. This thing actively scans the traffic that is allowed, using signatures to spot and block known attack patterns before they can even land. And the real benefit here? It buys your security team critical time to patch vulnerabilities because the attack gets stopped at the network level before it can even execute.
All right, our network shield is strong, it's a great start, but we absolutely need a second layer. Let's call this one proactive detection. This is all about actively hunting for any threat that, despite our best efforts, manages to slip through the cracks.
Okay, let's break this down. You've got your traditional antivirus, right? It's like having a book of fingerprints for known bad guys. It's still useful for sure, but it's just not enough anymore. Modern threats demand something smarter, like behavioral analysis. These tools don't just look for fingerprints, they watch how an application behaves. Is it trying to encrypt all your files out of the blue? That's how we spot brand new zero-day threats. And even better, you've got something called adaptive protection. This is really cool. It first learns what's normal for your network. Then it can spot when legitimate tools, things like PowerShell, are being used for evil, a technique hackers call living off the land, because they're just using what's already there.
Next up, we have to protect the applications you and your employees use every single day. And this is where memory exploit mitigation, or MEM, comes in. Honestly, this is a total game changer. Think of it like wrapping a protective bubble around your web browser. Now, if an attacker tries to exploit some hidden software bug, this technology sees the malicious technique and just shuts down the app. Instantly, before any damage is done. This is literally how you stop those scary zero-day exploits right in their tracks.
So for our third layer, we're not just defending anymore. We're going on the offensive by hardening the endpoint. This is where we get really strict and start to lock things down, controlling exactly what is and is not allowed to run on the machine.
Yeah, this is where we get very, very prescriptive. We are going to implement some really strict controls over both the hardware that can be plugged into a machine and the software that can be run on it. By doing this, we dramatically shrink the attack surface.
Device control is our first tool here. And just take a look at this. You don't need to read every little detail, but just see how a simple policy can be created to block entire classes of hardware. For example, with just one rule, we can block every single USB storage device from connecting. Just like that, you've neutralized a huge vector for data theft and malware.
But, okay, you might be thinking, what if I need to allow a specific company-issued encrypted USB drive? That's a great question, and that's where granular control comes in. Instead of blocking the entire class of devices, we can create a specific exception for a unique device ID. This gives us that perfect balance of security and flexibility, allowing only the hardware we've pre-approved.
All right, that's hardware. Now let's talk software.
We've got two incredibly powerful options here. On one hand, you have application control. This lets us create specific rules, like blocking certain unwanted apps or even just blocking malicious behaviors. But for your most critical systems, I'm talking domain controllers, the crown jewels, we can use something called system lockdown. This is the ultimate security posture. It's a default deny world. What that means is absolutely nothing runs unless it's on a pre-approved list. Nothing.
And just look at how granular we can get with this stuff. This rule here, it's not just blocking an application. No, it's configured to block a very specific action, any process that tries to modify critical system registry keys. This can literally stop a ransomware attack dead in its tracks before it even gets started. Okay, this brings us to our fourth and final active layer of defense, enforcing system integrity. See, it's not enough to just set up all these protections. We have to continuously enforce them 24/7 without fail.
And this is handled by something called a host integrity policy. It's actually a really simple four-step process. First, you define what a healthy, compliant system looks like in your environment. Second, the endpoint is constantly checking itself against that definition. Third, if the check ever fails, say it's missing a patch, the endpoint is automatically booted into a quarantine network. And fourth, the system can even try to fix itself by, say, automatically pushing that missing patch. It's brilliant.
So why is all this automation so critical? Well, because in today's threat landscape, speed and scale are everything. Host integrity basically puts your security posture on autopilot. It makes sure that a device that's fallen out of compliance can't get anywhere near your sensitive data. It's like a self-healing system that's always hardening and monitoring your endpoints, making your entire environment way more resilient.
So there you have it, 4 interconnected layers that create a true defense-in-depth strategy. But look, knowing about the layers is one thing. Building the fortress correctly, that's a whole other ballgame. And that's where having the right partner is absolutely critical.
You know, building a fortress like this isn't about just buying a piece of software and clicking install. It's about designing a strategy. You need an expert partner who can take these powerful concepts and really tailor them to your specific environment. That's exactly the role of a specialist, like the team over at Watchpost Security.
And a good partner will never, ever forget one final critical detail. Attackers are smart. They will try to disable your security software. It's one of the first things they do. That's why a foundational technology like tamper protection it's non-negotiable. It makes sure your defenses can't be turned off, making the walls of your fortress truly unbreakable.
So I'll leave you with this one question to really think about. When you look at your own security setup, what do you see? Do you see a single wall that an attacker just needs to get over once to win? Or do you see a resilient fortress, built in layers, that can stand strong even after the perimeter has been breached?
If you're ready to move from that single wall to a true fortress, I really encourage you to reach out to the experts at Watchpost Security. All of their contact information is right there on the screen. Thanks for watching, and stay secure.